Righto team, bring it in nice and tight here. This is going to be a beauty. This is going to be a great Get 'em Onside Legend series, to the fact where this guy, I think, needs his own series, let alone show. We're talking about, I think, one of the most underrated players in the history of the game. Imagine, when you're driving on a Saturday or a Sunday, you see all those fields and all those young girls and boys, they want to play NRLW, they want to play NRL. Just one game will do. Well, this guest of ours, folks, 40 representative games, not including City Country. We're talking 40 for Australia and New South Wales combined. It is a massive, massive decorated career, and I'm very pleased to say that Rod Wishart joins us for the Get 'em Onside Legend Series. G'day, Rod.
G'day, Joel. How are you, mate?
Mate, we're going to get into your story, but as the finals are upon us, I think we should start for the young fella here. Tyran Wishart. These days, people will be saying, well, that's Tyran's dad. Well, no. This guy here, career is impeccable. Let's talk about Tyran quickly and the Melbourne Storm and their journey that's in front of them and how he got there. Was he always the star, Tyran?
No, he wasn't at all. No. Yeah. I think he was always a good little player back in the days. It sort of reminded me of myself when I was as a kid. Small, had a little bit of speed, loved the game, and just lived and breathed his footy. Come his teenage years, he didn't grow, but he stuck in there, and he stayed true and competitive. Then he started to play some good football, and then the Dragons. He was in the Dragons system. And then just out of the blue, Dragons didn't make a commitment at all, but then Melbourne Storm did all their homework, and we got a phone call from them, and out of the blue, he's just went straight down to Melbourne, and he's made every post a winner there. And Melbourne have really enhanced Tyran and what he can do. Great club, and now he's entering his second semi-final series.
Wow!
So it's great for Tyran.
Injury to Jerome Hughes, which could see him a starting halfback in a grand final. That could really happen, starting half at the very least. I want to talk about this, though. So he gets the opportunity at the Melbourne Storm. Now, is history repeating, folks? Jay Hoffman, a Canberra Raider, moves over to the western suburbs, and Ryan Hoffman, this youngster, comes through, wins SG ball with all these young good kids, on his way to play first grade for the West Tigers. Merge club, like Tyran there at St George Illawarra. He said, nah, I want him at the Melbourne Storm. The rest is history. Plays for New South Wales, wins grand finals, scores a try in a grand final. What a sliding doors moment for Tyran, and how did that happen for him?
Get to the Melbourne Storm?
Well, was he always on the radar for the Storm?
Yeah, no, he wasn't at all. And he was, as I said, in the Dragon system. And I think he was starting to play some pretty good football, but there was no real commitment. He was thought there was a situation he might have to go and have a look at from some other clubs, and I had a relationship with Frank Panissi, and I worked for Frank he worked for the New South Wales Rugby League when I was playing. I did development work around the schools, so I went around school kids and taught them, the skills of rugby league and living a healthy lifestyle and stuff like that. So I knew Frank, and I called him because I didn't know whether I was getting some advice. I didn't know whether to get a manager for Tyran or not. Just to get some advice from Frank. Frank said, as a bit of a closing sort of statement, said, "Oh, we might keep our eye on Tyran ourselves." So, and a couple of years later, we get a phone call. So they did all the groundwork. I know that they put things under the microscope. They got a really good development, thing going down at Melbourne, and he come through the ranks, and he got a gig.
What's more nerve-wracking, playing a grand final yourself or watching your son play a grand final?
just watching, I think, without a doubt. You don't think about it when you're playing too much. All you got to do is worry about yourself, and don't. But as a parent, you just don't want them to fail one way or another. That's not everyone. You just want them to succeed and do the best they can. But as a parent sitting on the sideline, it's not easy. No. It's not easy at all. And you've got kids yourself, and you've got some footy players yourself. So I think you understand.
Away from kids, you've not just got kids who play football, you've got a son-in-law, Reuben Garrick, who is the father of your granddaughter. He comes out after the birth of your beautiful granddaughter, scores 4 tries. Remarkable.
Bit amazing, isn't it? Yeah. He was a bit overwhelmed with being a dad, and it was only 12 or 15 hours since the birth. Running on with Manly, I actually got to the game myself, and 4 tries. What a way to celebrate! And Reuben's he's a good fella. He's a Gerringong boy.
Yep.
And they're making a life for themselves up in Manly, and good club. I end up going to a few Manly games as well. And who would have thought that when I'd finished football for 10 years with the Illawarra Steelers, one with the merged club St George Illawarra Dragons, that I'd be barracking for one Manly and Melbourne Storm. And Melbourne Storm were, as you know, my last game for the St George Illawarra Dragons was a grand final against Melbourne. Here I am supporting them.
We're going to get to that. Enough about Reuben, enough about Tyran. I've just checked the clock, folks. It is Rod Wishart o'clock. Let's go into your career, Rod. So you grew up in Gerringong. Tell us your story and your young journey. Yeah,
well, sort of like Tyran, I was little. I had a little bit of pace. Loved rugby league. That's all you did back in those days. Rugby league in winter, cricket in summer, and surfing all year round. So it was like Mick Cronin was very influential at Gerringong, because back in those days he played for Australia. And he played for Australia for 2 years before he actually went up to play for Parramatta. So here I am as a little kid, played rugby league. I got to see Mick Cronin even walk around the streets. So that was pretty inspirational, not just for me, but for anyone that played sport in Gerringong. And so going through the junior ranks, I could play a little bit. I got picked in the under 12s. State side, the schoolboys side, alongside Paul Harrigan, and Danny Farrer, if you remember Danny at Penrith. So I made that side. I was number 6.
Number 6.
Yes, yeah. So I was an inside back, and then it progressively sort of went out to the centres, and I found myself on the wing. But I didn't grow that much, so I sort of was a little bit stagnant there for a bit, and then Mick Cronin had finished his career at Parramatta just as I was sort of entering grade. So he came and coached Gerringong.
Wow.
So when I was 18 and 19, I had 2 years with Gerringong playing in the country rugby league, and Mick was my coach. So he's been so influential with my career. And I did have at that stage, a couple of Sydney clubs asked whether I could trial. His opinion was to stick in the country rugby league.
Really?
Country rugby league was strong back in those days as well. So I stuck in there, played for Country First, and then the year after I had a few clubs offer contracts. So the Illawarra Steelers, the Gold Coast, and Balmain Tigers as well. So I decided to go with the Illawarra Steelers because it was an option to stay at home, living in a beautiful town like Gerringong and still playing the best competition in the world. And Illawarra was only 40 minutes up the road, so I chose Illawarra, and I thought there may have been an opportunity to play first grade. The coaching staff had let go a lot of their senior members, and they were bringing their juniors up through the ranks. And I felt like it was an opportunity to play at least a little bit of first grade.
I want to talk about Gerringong. So the population in my last Google was about 4,000 people. That's not a lot of people. And you're seeing these days all these young Gerringong kids, including Reuben, Tyran, these young whippersnappers, Hamish Stewart and Dylan Egan, and there's a long list coming through. There's a little town up north called Tinga, and that's where Nathan Blacklock, who you played with, Preston Campbell won a Dally Yam, and what that little town of 800 people achieved. My theory with Gerringong, and I'm trying to work out why is this little town so successful. It appears as though most of the kids down there surf. Now, I've done some junior coaching, and the swimmers, the kids who are swimmers, I feel have a huge athletic advantage. Gerringong seem to be massive overachievers. Would you say Hayden Buchanan's another one there? Asham Ward, who's there at South Sydney, amongst others. Do you think the surfing's got something to do with the swimming and the aerobic capacity, or what do you put at the end of it?
I wouldn't think so.
No, you don't. I like that.
I like your theory.
But why then? Why is this little hotspot?
I think with surfing, I think when you're playing I think you need an outlet when you're playing a sport, and surfing's a really good outlet. So you don't think about it, and you're not narrow-minded and stuff like that. I think that's a point to consider. But I think in Gerringong, the secret is that there's a standard they set.
Really?
And it was set in the early days. And again, I'll bring Mick Cronin up, and he came back and started coaching, and he won't take the credit because there's a lot of good people at the Gerringong club, and they don't change. They set standards. They set training, patterns that you work hard, and they don't bring anyone else into the club. They look after their locals. They really never paid their players until the last 2 or 3 years, and that was just to keep players.
Yes.
And so I think it's more just about work ethic, attitude, giving people someone an opportunity, and they take the most of it. And it's really, if I had to, now that I've been privy to what happens at Melbourne Storm.
You just took my question away. I was going to say it's a mini Storm by the sounds of it.
So that's what it is. You give someone an opportunity, and generally they take it, but it's all about hard work and effort.
Right, okay. There you go. That hard work and effort culminates in a debut for the Steelers. You're 20. The year is 1989. That's the famous year where the Raiders pinched that game against the Balmain Tigers. Could have been in that grand final by the sounds of it. Could have been in that grand final. What's your most vivid memories? 10 seasons at the Steelers, the most tries there, record still. That won't be broken, clearly. Most points, 1,152 points. Rod Wishart.
I'll come out and sing a song for you.
If you can. What's your most vivid memories of the Steelers?
Oh, so many great memories. Look, when I joined the Steelers, as I said, I came in as pretty raw, and I guess questioned my own ability to a certain point. I would have been happy if I played a handful of first grade games, and played reserve grade would have been just as good. Yep. I had the opportunity in the pre-season, trained hard. I was a centre back in those days, so I played first 4 or 5 games in the centres. Felt like it went all right, but although the Steelers only won 2 games that year, but Ronnie Hilditch was my coach. He said, "Look, Rod, we might make a change for you. We're going to put you on the wing." And I couldn't understand it. In those days, you didn't argue with the coach. The coach, the coach said that's what you did. So I'm thinking the next move for me is probably the bench. But we had guys like Brett Rodwell coming into the club as well. So it just fit for the rest of the side that I played on the wing. And I played 4 or 5 games on the wing, and actually after a game I took my jumper off and gave it to Bob Millward after the game. And he said, Rod, keep that because you didn't even get dirty. So I made it my own to after that to get involved as a winger. I think it was a little bit of a turning point in an era that the role of a winger maybe changed. I acted as a second forward. Came in from dummy half, coming off my own line, got involved, and that was my strength. My speed for over 10, 15 metres was pretty good, and I got a little bit of success. So and I ended up playing the whole year in first grade that year, and then And then I guess 12 months later, or actually 6 months later, I'm playing Origin on the wing for New South Wales. So Illawarra has definitely gave me the opportunity. We had some great players in there, and then from the early 90s, we started to get a success as a club. And we made the semi-finals in '92, one off being in a grand final.
4-0.
Yeah. So I've got some fantastic memories playing for the Illawarra Steelers, and particularly home games, Wynn Stadium. You just can't beat it.
Wow. 4-0 in that semi, of course. The Tooheys Challenge Cup in 1992. It was a lean year. Well, it wasn't a lean year. You won the Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
You won that. And then you hosted it in a rare game. Great Britain did a bit of a travelling circus. 11-10, they beat you. Amazing stuff. It's an amazing, amazing career. And finally you get to the merger. And you play a part in where my path would go, because I've been offered I've only played 3 first-grade games at St George then. We're merging with Illawarra to become St George Illawarra. My first question was, is Luke Patton, what's he doing? He was the up-and-comer. And the stalwart, Rod Wishart, what is he doing? The answer was, they're both coming. And I said, well, if they're both coming, I'm out of here. So I left the building. You come into the building, which must have been hard, because Illawarra, a country town or a country place, then you've got the City Slickers, St George. You bring them together, but it kind of works.
Well, it was chalk and cheese to start with, I would tell you, and it was a little bit. We had a club, and same with St George as well. We had players in our club, and then all of a sudden, half of them didn't make the cut because you had to merge the two together. So it was a little bit bittersweet. Some people had to go and find other clubs, and then we had to merge with a different culture. And as you said, the City Slickers. I mean, we're just a country. We're a country footy team playing a professional league, and generally most of us were local and country boys, and we had to try and understand these city guys. They talk too fast for us. We just say, slow down, guys. Right. So with David Waite was the coach.
So was he the coach? Were they co-coaches?
No, they were co-coaches. I feel like David was probably.
Did you know quite early though that Wadey was so that they were named co-coaches, weren't they? Andrew Farrar and David Waite.
Yep.
But did you know quite early who was running the show? Did you?
It seemed like that, yeah. I think they all both contributed one way or another.
Yep.
But I think that the main reins were taken by David, yeah. So, and then he had a different style to what Andrew did as well. So, and for me, playing on the wing, it was a hard situation because I didn't play the first 2 games. I didn't make the game. So I think Wadey's idea of a role of a winger didn't suit me. I was a hard worker that just didn't do anything too flash. But we had Nathan Blacklock, Jamie Ainscough. Take nothing away from those guys, but they were fancy. They were fancy players, and fast and attacking wise, good players. But I was a little bit different. So a lot of games I came off the bench. It wasn't in my normal sort of situation when I had to adjust. I think everyone had to adjust. Yep. I think the players had to adjust more than anything else. Because
so an abrasive year or an enjoyable year?
No, it was enjoyable. Yeah, without a doubt. There was some times where we had to make some sacrifices and make sure that the club won at the end of the day. So I think everyone made sacrifices, not for the better of themselves, but for the better of the club. So. Eventually, we made the a grand final. It was hard. I think we only got our first win after around 4 or 5.
Oh, really?
So it was a tough start, but we got there. We and could have been a fairy tale finish for me because I was going to retire at the end of that year.
Like your hero Mick Cronin, like it was going to be the same finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, possibly, but. It didn't happen that way, and the first half was was good for us. We started the second half very well as well, but then momentum, when that changes, mate, it's really hard to turn it back around. Melbourne the pendulum swung pretty quick, and we couldn't get it back. So I think everyone could probably put their hand up for one reason or another why the momentum swing was there. So people focus on 2 or 3 different things that happened in that second half, but eventually I think everyone can say, well, it was a team effort that, and well done to Melbourne who did their thing. But yeah, as I say, it was a bit of a sad finish. But and who would have thought now I'm supporting the Melbourne Storm? Sometimes I have to pinch myself about that.
You know what, Rod? So you guys flogged Melbourne in the very week one. Week one, you flog them. So it was 34-10 or something like that. At half-time or just about, it's 14-0. So by this stage in that month, you're effectively leading the Melbourne Storm 48-10.
Yeah.
This is your last ever game.
Yeah,
Like it was that close to being the fairy tale Ray Price, Mick Cronin finish.
Yeah, possibly, but it takes a while to get over stuff like that. People, I try and erase it from my memory, but people keep bringing it up, mate.
So, can you give me your perspective, being a player, being part of that squad? Massive crowd. I think it's the biggest crowd we've ever had to a grand final. It was just before the Olympics at the Olympic Stadium when it was at capacity. Nathan Blacklock streaming away for the try. I want to get where are you at this stage, your perspective, but then the bad part of the game is when Craig Smith goes up for the Melbourne Storm, gets collared. I want you to share your emotions at that very time also.
Well, yeah, I'd come off and on a couple of times. I didn't start the game. I came on with after about 20 minutes. And then...
Did Luke Patton come off?
Yeah,
push Blacklock to fullback?
Yes, I think that was the case, yeah. And then everything was going well for us in that first half, as I've said. But then... when things go pear-shaped, they really do. And at the end of the game, I think people are going to say, Jamie Ainscough, he shouldn't have done that. But there was, if I was in Jamie Ainscough's shoes, I'd do exactly the same thing. You cannot do anything other than try and hit him with everything you've got. And unfortunately, it turned out to be an illegal tackle. He did drop the ball, but he couldn't do much else.
But did you know when you saw the replay? You're back on the bench at this stage.
I was back on the bench then. So.
And when you're looking up, your immediate thought is what?
It took probably a little while to process, but I think eventually, it was the right call. There was going to be a penalty try there. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that's how that finishes up. Not to be the fairy tale finish, but it's a fairy tale career, really it is. 9 straight series for New South Wales. You play for New South Wales in your second year. You play 9 straight series. You win 6 of those series that you play a part of. Let's start with the King, Wally Lewis, and taking on that great man.
Well, it was a... pretty rapid rise, 18 months prior to being picked in Origin, I'm still at Gerringong.
Yeah.
And then, I even though Wally was a Queenslander, you had the respect for Wally when he played for Australia, and he was someone I really looked up to. And in 1990, we got the opportunity to play against, obviously, Queensland. It was the first game down in Melbourne as well. So we played Olympic Park. It was quite different.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so it was in a sense, when you're playing, when you do something good and the crowd erupts and stuff like that. A majority of the crowd didn't really understand what was going on.
Not then.
We'd kick for touch, and the ball boy would take a mark, and the crowd would erupt. Or we'd do something really good, and we're thinking, wait, what's the crowd doing? And so it was a little bit different. But that game, we'd won the first. If my memory's right, the second game was down in Melbourne, and we had to win that to wrap it up. Or it might have been the third game down in Melbourne. But either way, I'm playing against Wally, and down in Melbourne, Olympic Park. It was probably about 10 minutes to go, and the scores were even, the scores were even, and we got a penalty. quite dubious, I would say.
Okay.
And it could have gone either way.
Yeah.
But Wally thought, no way. And he was ripping into the referee. So we had the penalty about probably maybe 30 metres out, probably about 10, 15 from centre. And I was doing the goal kicking. And it wasn't an easy kick, wasn't hard.
No.
And Wally's just ripping into the referee. Meanwhile, I'm just setting up.
Yeah.
Scores are locked.
Oh.
And 10 minutes to go. It was a pressure kick. So I've set the line up, and Wally's feeling like I'm not doing any good with the referee. So I was the next target. So Wally's just hammering me. He says, "You've got nothing. You won't kick this, Wishart." I've looked up and thought, Wally knows my name. So I was just out of, was out of control. And I'm thinking, right, Wally knows my name, but I've got to kick this. And thankfully, I kicked the goal. It was probably the best strike I've had for a while. But and then we went on to score another late try, and then Wally came up after the game and sort of like apologised, but it just gave me the real meaning of Origin as well, because it was you had to hate him, and I know he hated me when I was kicking the goal, so it was return serve for the next 9 years after that. So we had a great culture there in the Blues. We had a lot of good coaches. Jack Gibson in that first year. What a privilege to have Jack coach, even though it was just for the 3 games. I always look back and fond memories. He called me Gerringong because he knew Mick Cronin came from Gerringong. If he forgot my name, he just called me Gerringong anyway. So, and then Timmy Sheens, the ultimate professional, and Gus Goulden was probably the best coach I've ever had. Yeah.
Well, why do you say that?
Well, Gus just made you feel like technically there was just no one better.
Yep.
But on the other, the psychology of sport and rugby league, he just had it tapped. So there was a time when we were playing, and it was mid-90s. I was the goal kicker at the time, and then a young Andrew Johns came into the team, and he was obviously came in as a great player, but also a great goal kicker, and it's something I never really did for. Johnsy reckons I wide-handed him, but I went up to
you wide-handed an immortal.
Yeah, well, it turns out that way. Yeah, so I really pride myself in my goal kicking, and I thought I'd gather as much courage as I could to have a bit of a meeting with Gus and say, Gus, I've been with the Origin for a while. I've been doing the goal kicking, and I know Andrew Johns is in the side. I know he's a good goal kicker, but I really would like to do the goal kicking. And he said, and this is the sort of things he can make people feel inside as well. So he says, Wish, I'm going to tell you something. He said, when I pick Origin or I pick a winger, there's wingers that are faster than you, and there's wingers that have got more evasive ability than you, and there's wingers that will score more tries than you. And I'm thinking, Gus, where are you going with this one, mate? So, but when I pick wingers for Origin, I pick wingers that put the hand up. And you'll always put the hand up, and if something needs to get done, you'll always do it, and you'll never let me down. So if you've got your hand up to do the goal kicking, there's the ball, mate. You go for your life.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, wow. And he made me feel, and there's other examples like that. And I know individuals will have their own little stories that Gus will tell them, and as a group. So there's as a complete coach, Gus had everything, and then to finish off, we had Tommy.
Hang on, before we go to Tommy, how did you kick him after Gus gave you the leather?
Well, I kicked him. I kicked okay.
Yeah.
I didn't make the second game.
Right.
Andrew Johns started kicking. I never got kicked after that.
So then you go from you've had Jack Gibson, who gives you your State of Origin debut in your second year of first grade, Tim Sheens, Phil Gould, like we're talking massive Hall of Famers, and then one of the greatest blokes ever, the late, great Tommy Raudonikis.
Yeah, Tommy's, look, as far as making you feel 10 foot tall and bulletproof as well, he did that. Technically, probably not his highest point, but his role was to get the team up and running. Like he brought Cattle Dog into the side. It was one of those times when he said had the initial meeting. And he told everyone, he said, "I'm going Origin's missing one thing," and this is when they're trying to clean the game up as well. We're gonna bring on the bloody Biff, and I'm telling you, when I call Cattle Dog, everyone goes in. Everyone. A few people started laughing. And Lazo, what are you laughing at? I want you to start it, mate. And so we knew he was serious. And then I knew he was serious when he even looked over there. Even you bloody wingers over there as well. I want everyone in. So, and it did erupt at that stage. But he was told by the management, I said, Tommy, you can't do that, mate. But he said, well, I think they reached an agreement. They said, well, if we're behind and we needed to, interrupt the momentum of Queensland, we may call Cattle Dog. But technically, it was we had some training, and this is where his passion comes into it. And I think he's 100% right. So we asked him, what sort of defence do you want, Tommy? I think Laurie Daly was the captain. He says, Loz, what sort of defence do you want? Up and in, inside out, sliding, drifting. And Tommy's going, whoa, Laurie, what are you talking about, mate? He said, this is Origin. All you do is just go up and you smash the bastards. And I can tell you, and we thought, no, we're going to have some sort of system here. But the whole thing about just going up and smashing them, that is what Origin's all about. It is. It's all about just getting in their face. Yeah, no, it is. I've got some great memories of Tommy. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to get coached him and know who the bloke was.
Before we leave Origin, I've thought about this actually. So you being forced to the wing, which at the time you didn't like, but that propels your career to 22 state of origins, 18 tests for Australia. It's a little bit Lomax-esque, where Lomax didn't want anything to do with the wing. He was absolutely adamant he wanted to be 3 or 4, but him being pushed to the wing has made him the player and representative player he is. Yep.
And it's a funny thing because I know Zach, and I actually had a chat to him about the same thing when he was still at the Dragons. Yeah. So I told him my story, and I think it resonated with him. And as I said before, those were the days. If the coach says you're playing on the wing, you didn't complain. And I feel like even when the decision was made for him to play on the wing, I said to myself, why didn't I see it myself? He was made for the wing. So I told him my story, and that I was coming as a centre, and I thought, oh, here we go, I'm on the wing, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I made it my own to get in there. But Zach has done the exact same thing, and he's taken the play on the wing to another level. So him and Brian for New South Wales are just outstanding, and wingers these days, they just are just in awe of the way and unsung heroes they are all of a sudden. Yeah. So the wingers. So we had to prove ourselves at one stage, but now, geez, the wingers are a really important part of a team.
You can't win a comp these days without gun wingers, right? So the stigma of, he's playing on the wing, those days, he or she, by the way, they are gone well and truly. Let's go to Australia, 18 caps for the Kangaroos. And I go back to what I started with, Rod, and you must pinch yourself, and maybe it's this weekend you're driving and all the girls and boys playing rugby league, dreaming to play one first-grade game. And when it's all said and done for you, you've played a grand final, you've played 22 matches for New South Wales, including 6 Origin series wins, 18 caps for the Kangaroos. Like, all those fields full of kids just want to play one first-grade game.
Yeah.
Pretty remarkable, Rod.
Yeah, it is. I look back and think I definitely sort of overachieved, to be honest. But then it makes you realise that you keep putting the bar up and you back yourself, and you just don't leave anything in the tank, and you understand what you're capable of doing. I feel like, I exhausted everything, and I look back and thought, I'm glad I gave it, the shot that I did. And I look back and thought, wow, I'm pretty proud of what I've got to say, what I've done. So playing for New South Wales was such an honour, but then no more honour than playing for your country. And was coached by Bob Fulton the whole time.
How did you learn about that, Rod? How did you learn about that green and gold jumper was going to be going on you? How did you find that out?
I got a call from Bob Millward at the Illawarra Steelers, and it was it was a bit of a surreal sort of moment. We had a big party down at Gerringong, and I had to have a fitness test the next morning. Up at Sydney, which wasn't that pleasant. Anyway, I think, and it was good just when you start playing at those levels, particularly Origin as well. You play at club level, then you go into an Origin camp, and it makes you realise that the level just jumps up, and you've got to lift yourself to be at that standard, and you feel it when you go back to club level. And no disrespect to club level players, you come back and it just seems a little bit more slow.
Really, it's a different game.
Yeah. And you do feel it. And playing Origin, you're playing outside of Laurie Dale and Ricky Stewart, and there's these bullet passes were hitting you on the chest, and I'm thinking, what? I've got to catch it, but you do it. Yeah, you do what you have to do, and then before you know it, you look back and think, wow, I've got these Origin games and Australian games under my belt, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Of all these rep teams you played in, is there a favourite roomie?
Well, I was room with ET a fair bit. Yeah,
good looking room, that one.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. If he's my favourite because I'd wake up in the morning and ET'd wake up and he hasn't got a hair out of place.
Yeah,
I'd wake up, look in the mirror, have to put my beanie on, and think, but he makes you realise how unattractive you are when you live with him. But he's a great guy, and I roomed with him on a kangaroo tour as well.
Yep.
So we had a good friendship, and it was good to have some experience as well with ET, who's played a host of representative games as well.
Wow, okay. 18 caps for the Kangaroos, your debut, 44 blot, you score a try on debut. Tell us about Bozo. So we've mentioned Jack Gibson, Tim Sheens, Phil Gould, Tommy Radonicus, Bobby Fulton. Yeah,
Bobby Fulton. Yeah. He demanded, he's the level of the bar was really and if you didn't get there, you'd know it. And I think there was a certain respect that you gave him. I don't know what I did, but I think he liked me because he kept on picking me. So there were some pretty good wingers back in those days. So majority of Queensland, we had Michael Hancock,
yep,
and Willie Kahn.
Oh yes.
So later on there was Wendell Saylor. And so then there was ET that was played on the wing as well. So it was pretty competitive. But Bozo made you accountable for everything you did, and we went on some good tours. Went on the last Kangaroo tour in '94 of England and France. What a great time that was. And went on a tour to New Guinea. That was in the early '90s, and that was probably one of the best tours I've ever been on. So, it was a couple of weeks, and now with New Guinea coming into the competition.
Rod? Do you like the fact that P&G coming in?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
because the love of the game that those guys have got, it's more than a religion. It is it's out of this world. So if we can enhance that. And it's going to be tough because it's not the lifestyle in New Guinea is not the same as what we're used to here. But I know they've got some work to do. But if you can enhance what they have there and their passion for the game, it's unbelievable. One of the games that we had up there was it was a provincial game. It was up in the Highlands. So there was a stadium there, if you called it a stadium. It was 6,000 people or 7,000 people, but some people had walked 2 days to get there, and so something like 12 or 15,000 had turned up to the game, but they could only let in 6 or 7. So there was about 7 or 8,000 unhappy people, and we started the game, and you could hear that there was a riot outside, and they were starting to push down the fences to try and get in. So then they started firing some automatic rifles, and we were playing. We were going, what's going on out there? We're trying to keep an eye on the game and everything. Then there was tear gas. So tear gas came over the field because there was a lot of dramas going on. So we had to stop the game on 3 or 4 occasions, get the wet towels, put them over the face and stuff like that. We scored a try. I was kicking the goal, kicked the goal, came back, and I'm running. I said, "Where's my team gone?" They were all on the sideline.
No way.
With all wet towels over there because tear gas come over that side of the field. But it was only because they just wanted to see
passion.
So if they can do it, there's a bit of work to be done. But I'm looking forward to Papua New Guinea being in the
good.
Yeah, so
Great insight. Thanks for sharing that too, Rod, by the way. And I was thinking about your career and the Steelers early 90s. It's a bit like, I don't know whether it's a McGill versus Warren. You just ran in to your hotness at the wrong time, because when the Steelers were at their very best, the Raiders of the early mid-90s, the Broncos of the early mid-90s, they were scorching hot. You played with so many of those players. This week, as we record this particular episode, Get 'em Onside Legends Series, the Broncos are taking on the Raiders. It's a day game, which is perfect. I love that. Who was the best team of the early 90s? Was it that early Broncos side? Was it the early Raiders side? Settle the debate once and for all.
Okay, good question.
Yeah.
My first trial game in '89 was against the Raiders down there, and they fielded, and I was playing in the centres. I played up against Mal, and that was nearly majority of Australian side. You know, they had Ricky Stewart and Laurie. A couple of the Walters boys, Peter Jackson, you name them, they were there. Belcher, list goes on and on. And so I think it was in the early times it was the Raiders, but then I think in the mid '90s, I think the Broncos were probably the team to beat. Yep. Although it was funny because I think if you asked and looked at the records, the Illawarra Steelers, I think if the Broncos had a bogey side, it was the Illawarra Steelers.
Really?
Yeah. So back in '92, we were one off making a semi. Broncos won the comp. They played against St George.
And it was St George who beat you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I reckon if the Broncos, if we had beaten the St George, the Broncos would have been worried.
Oh, so the Broncos would have been cheering on the Dragons to beat you.
And I reckon that year we'd beaten the Broncos at least once, possibly twice.
Yep. So we know of yourself and, of course, who else? Mary McGregor in the side.
Yep.
Your great centre, Rob Well, whose son's also coming through the ranks in the halves.
Yep.
You three get a big shout out. Is there another unheralded player you think that, gee, this guy doesn't get enough a rap of the Steelers days?
Oh, we had a few of them, mate.
Yeah.
So we majority local players. So you had Neil Pinchinelli.
Yep.
So underrated. He did so many things, cleaning up, cover defence. He was a great ball player.
Yep.
And then you had guys like John Cross.
Yep.
Then we had another guy, Ian Russell. He was a lock forward. You remember Ian Russell?
I do actually.
Probably one of the most underrated players coming out of Illawarra.
Really?
Yeah.
Ian Russell.
Followed sort of closely by Johnny Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I reckon I've nailed those 4 players, the most underrated. Yeah. Then we had guys like Dean Skifoletti as well. Didn't play any rep footy, but a really good hooker. So a lot of the players that we had in '92 flew under the radar, and I guess that's probably why we had a good season. But I played on the same side as Mary, and that was a real privilege. We got a system in place where when you play with someone, you just feel so safe. Defensively, probably more so. And we had so many games together and a bit of an understanding, although sometimes I didn't understand which foot Mary was going to step off. I had to try and follow him around, but we had a great understanding and a great friendship still to this day. So we just came off a reunion at the Illawarra Steelers last weekend, so it was great to see a lot of the guys. A shame the Steelers aren't as the Illawarra Steelers, and the identity at the Illawarra Steelers isn't as prominent as St George's with the merge. So it's a bit of a thing for me, but anyway, this is what it is.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, just before we get off P&G and golf, you love your surfing. By the way, a teammate of yours, Nathan Blacklock, he plays off one.
Yeah, I knew he was a good golfer.
Yeah.
Yes, but one. Wow.
Plays off one. You played golf in PNG with a very good player. Is that right?
Yeah. I played golf with a young fella from down in Kymry, but he made the top 10 in the PNG Open. And so we were talking about golf in New Guinea. We played, and Bozo being the coach, he loved his golf. So every second day we were playing golf. So then you had you always had a caddy there as well, and the caddies was
really?
Yeah.
Local caddy.
Yeah, local caddies, and they knew their stuff. And so you'd have a caddy, and they'd say, "Yes, me boss, so take me," and they'd want to, and you'd give them something. You'd give them a t-shirt, and they were just over the moon.
Yeah.
But anyway, they knew their stuff, and you'd play a shot, and some of my shots would go a little bit wayward and find its way into the jungle. And I'd ask the caddy for a ball, a new ball. He said, no, I find ball boss. He would take off, and sure enough, here's ball boss. There it is. Oh. and then he'd tell you which club to use. 7-9 boss. I said, no, I think they'll get there with an 8. Give me an 8. Anyway, hit the 8 iron. Sure. I told you hit 7-9 boss. so it was a really good time, and that made it a special tour. We did some fishing, and again with New Guinea, such a lovely place, but you're going to have to there's some hard work in front of anyone that's going to have to organise a club in New Guinea. But I haven't got anything. Some good things to say about New Guinea.
Some people are iconic with a particular item of sport. For example, Jonathan Docking, he had the shoulder pads, and then there's the players with the headgear, there's the players with the torpedoes, but you were famous for the French cap boots, the high boots. How did that come of age? Well,
if you ask Freddie or Joey, they would have said I wore them my whole career, but I wore some high boots, mainly because when I came out of Gerringong, I had some really bad ankles. I used to roll them all the time. Yeah. And I went to a specialist, and he said that the only real way is you've got to have support. Obviously, I tape my ankles all the time, but I wore high boots. And if anyone remembers Chris Walsh, who played for the Steelers, he was our captain, front rower, top bloke, and he gave me his hand-me-downs. He had I had the same foot as him, so I put them on, and I did that for a couple of years, and my ankles improved. But again, if you ask Joey, he reckons I'm still wearing them. But that was the reasoning behind it. Yeah.
But so you loan the boots or get the hand-me-downs from Walsh. His sister actually taught me. Hello to Mrs. Walsh out there. You actually had to share your boots on to another person also, which Bob Fulton, he took it a different way.
It is a true story.
Yeah, what happened there?
So we played a test match down in Melbourne against the Poms. And I'd come off with a hammy. And when we got towed up, I think we got beaten too. So anyway, I have to check that one. Anyway, E.T. was either playing fullback or on the wing as well. And the Melbourne surface back in those days, it was quite slippery. He was slipping around everywhere. So Bozo's giving his halftime speech and giving it to ET. What the hell are you got? What sort of boots you got on? Put some better boots. Haven't you got some more better boots than them? Because he had the moulded.
Yes. You need the long studs.
So the only boots he
Lost 33-10 this night.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought we got beaten. So anyway, he's given ET a gobful. He's going, where am I going to find some boots? And I'm taking my boots off. Put them on. So he's come back on into the dressing shed. And Bozo's one look. He said, "You can get those boots off."
I hated the look of them on ET.
Yes.
Oh, that's brilliant stuff.
So, yeah.
Quick questions before we go. Best player you ever played with?
Oh, look, I mentioned Paul McGregor as a teammate.
Yep.
I'll say Mary, and for the same reasons. We had a combination that I don't think you could ever get. You play with a really good player, but then you play with a real good player that you understand them. So that made it a lot better for me. And but guys that I played against, I've always said Bradley Clyde.
Really?
Because just all rounder. Just everything, attack, defence, everything. Even when I was the wing playing either for New South Wales or Australia, the opposite team would kick the ball downfield. He was the first back down there. I was ready to take the ball, and he'd push me back out. He said, "Get back on your wing, get back in. I'll take this one." He was just a machine, and I think if there's a player that can jump straight into the game right now, as Bradley Clyde.
Wow.
So there's some other obvious ones too, like Joey and Freddie. They were great players, and again when you're playing that representative sort of arena, you start learning a lot because you have to, and but I'd just say Brad for sure. If
you're in an army camp with every player you'd played with, who'd be the last player standing? Who's the toughest? Mentally.
Oh, yeah, well, that's yeah. I would say as a club, I would probably put someone like Johnny Cross.
Johnny Cross.
Yeah. He was just really humble. He was our club captain as well. I think he was only 21 as well. He led by example. He was fit, and when it come to the crunch, he was always there. So there's plenty of guys in the representative arena, which I really can't nail one. But as on a club side of thing, I'd always say that Johnny Cross was one of those guys. I'd love to be in the trenches with him.
If you could relive, say, 5 minutes of your career, you go back and do it again, what would you do?
Oh God, mate. Not a great deal. Yeah, there's that. We spoke about that grand final bit. Yeah. There's not too many things I'd relive.
For the good though, I mean, like if there's a great moment that you got to do that again.
Oh, to do it again.
Not change.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Wow. My first Origin game, or even my first game playing for the Illawarra Steelers. Understanding the support that the Steelers fans gave you as well. You just got a lot of support from those people. I was at the reunion last week, and we got out of Wynn Stadium, and it just I still got it. You just feel like that was our home, and had so many games out there, win or lose. You just knew that the support was behind you, and that was your home.
Rod Wishart, it's been a pleasure. One last question, and I'm sure you're going to answer purple, so I won't say who's playing in the grand final, but I'll imagine sitting there in the crowd at Accor Stadium that first Sunday this year in October, you look down and the national anthem's on and Tyran's down there building out the anthem. Who's the team on the other side? Who do you see them playing?
Yeah, it's a tough one. There's so many sort of peaks and troughs in the last 3 or 4 weeks. No one's really got a huge amount of momentum. I think someone with momentum, it's probably the Broncos. And they can play good football, but everything's got to happen the right way. When they start playing some solid teams like Melbourne, like Penrith, like the Raiders, they may feel the pinch, but I will say that the Raiders and Melbourne. Whether that can happen is
yes.
Can happen?
Well, anything can happen at this stage. Yeah.
So
week one, anything
I'll
can
say
happen.
those two because the Raiders deserve it.
Yep.
And I love watching them play as well. Their outside backs are so good. They're fast. They're strong, and Ricky's got them fired up. But I know Craig will have the Melbourne side fired up as well. He's been there and done that. Experience means just about everything when it comes to semis. So I think we'll call it the Raiders and Storm grand final.
Okay, for the Raiders and the Storm to meet in the grand final, both must win in week one or both must lose. They need to do the same thing, which they are both favourites to win the game. Rod, it's been an absolute privilege to have you here. Your career, as I said, I think it's maybe the most underrated career of all time. 40 matches wearing either the green and gold or the sky blue. The many games you played. And look, the games that you played for the Steelers, there weren't 27 rounds back in those days, so much harder to get the games up. It's been such a treat. Father of four, to you and your family, all the best. To watching Tyran and his career, all the best. But, mate, you must be so very proud of what you've achieved. Thank you for being part of the Get 'em Onside Legend Series.
Thanks, Giles. It's been a really good talk. I've been enjoying it. Great.
Good man.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.